Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are digging into a document that tackles a really hot-button topic: the accusation that the LDS Church uses financial pressure to make sure its members pay tithing.
All right, let's jump right in. The core accusation is that the church essentially strong-arms members into paying tithing by tying it to their ability to enter the temples, their most sacred buildings. So the big question is this a fair standard of faith, or is it, financial extortion?
Now, the document we're looking at today says, hold on, you're looking at this all wrong. It argues that the whole debate is built on a massive misunderstanding. And to get to the bottom of it, we've got to get our definitions straight, especially for words like coercion and covenant.
Okay, so to really get the source's argument, we have to start where it starts. And that's with what it sees as a night and day difference between how a cult operates versus how a faith based on covenants works.
According to this document, the key word here is compulsion. The whole argument really hinges on this idea that the defining feature of a cult is that it takes away your free choice, your personal agency.
Now, check this out. What's so interesting here is how this table literally puts the two models side by side as complete opposites. Look at the rows for verification and consequences. On one side, you have proof required and threats. On the other, no bank statements and recommend as covenant certification. This visual is absolutely central to the entire point the source is trying to make.
And that brings us right to the heart of the matter, the source's argument about tithing itself. Is it a demand that's enforced, or is it a choice that's freely made? So, to make its case, the document points to some really specific things. It emphasizes that this whole system runs on a person's own declaration. Nobody is asking for your bank statements or your pay stubs. The argument is that this system is built on personal conscience, not on some kind of institutional force.
And here's the key takeaway. There's a complete absence of the ways people are usually forced to pay for things in the real world. If you decide not to pay, your wages aren't garnished, you're not getting fined, and nobody's taking you to court.
This slide just nails it, right? It perfectly spells out the difference the source is driving at. You've got external pressure and audits on one side, and on the other, an internal commitment that you regulate yourself. The document is saying these are two fundamentally different things. Okay, but now for the million-dollar question, the one everybody asks. If it's really voluntary, then why is it linked to getting into a temple? This is where that extortion claim really comes from.
And boom, this quote is how the source answers that question. It totally flips the script. The argument is that we shouldn't think of the temple as a place you pay to get into. Instead, it's presented as a sacred space for people who've already promised to live by a certain set of standards.
So what this means is that tithing isn't seen as some isolated fee. It's framed as just one of several commitments, right alongside things like being honest and chaste that a person says they're living up to. So the process is laid out like this. It's not about checking your finances. It's about you checking in with yourself. The interview is just a chance for you to say, out loud, that you are honoring the promises you already chose to make. It's about your integrity, based on your own word. And all of this brings us right back to that one central idea the source really wants to hammer home. It all boils down to a single concept.
The argument here is that what happens next isn't the punishment from the church. It's just the natural consequence of a choice the person made. And, the document stresses, that person is always free to make a different choice later on.
Honestly, if you remember one thing from this document, it's probably this sentence. It's the entire argument in a nutshell. It shifts the focus from the church denying someone access to the individual choosing not to declare something about themselves.
So what you should really take away from this is that the entire defense of this practice lives or dies on this definition. The argument is that there's a world of difference between agreeing to a standard and being held to your agreement versus having a rule forced on you from the outside.
And so the document leaves us with this final question to chew on. It's designed to make you stop and really think about what coercion actually means. By changing the terms of the debate, it's really challenging the very foundation of the original accusation.